everyone, and welcome to this run through of Pear Deck. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I'm going to be going through the various things you can do with Pear Deck, how to use it, some applications of it, just to kind of help you really up the engagement in your classroom. Let's dive in. All right, so Pear Deck, first of all, is an extension for Google Slides that allows you to give the students access to the Google Slides on their own devices. And then it also allows you to add in interactive content throughout the slides. So it takes something that could have just been a simple lecture, maybe even class discussion, and it just kind of ups it so that students are engaged. So every student is participating in some way or another. It really just kind of allows more to happen with the slides that you already have. So on the Pear Deck website, first thing you need to do is make an account. And I will say I use Pear Deck a lot, and I use it so much that I went ahead and I did purchase Pear Deck. You can use it for free. There are some limitations to the free version. But it is something that you can use for free. So from the website, there's really not a whole lot I can do right here. I just have set up my account. I can click on this tab here at the top to see my different sessions. This is where I can go to see the different pairs I've given with Pear Deck. This is also where I can go back to see data from. Mostly what you do with Pear Deck is you run it through Google Slides. So I have a Google Slides already open here. This is something actually I got from Common Sense Media, which is a fantastic resource for digital citizenship, as well as many other tech resources. So this is something I got from there. I was giving this lesson. However, I wanted there to be more interactive content through this Google Slides, and I wanted the students to be able to follow along on their own device. And the first thing you have to do is add the add-on right in Google Slides. So you would click on add-ons, get add-on, you'd look up Pear Deck. Obviously, I have already added it, so it's here. So I'm just going to click the Pear Deck tab here to open it up, and it will open up a menu here on the right hand side. So there are different templates. There are some different already put together sessions that you can use. Pear Deck also pairs with Newsella, which is a nice nonfiction news reading website, leveled reading. So that's a nice option to work with Pear Deck also. That's something that they have for free, but I'm going to just kind of shrink the templates and the featured content because I don't really need those right now. The main thing that I use with Pear Deck is this section here where it says ask students a question. Basically, what I would do is I'd pick a slide. So say we're on this slide and it says, what is cyberbullying and what can you do to stop it? If I wanted the students to respond to that, I could click on text, and it's going to give me, it's going to take a couple seconds. It's going to tell me basically what it's doing. It's adding this interactive question. And now when the students see this, they're going to see this slide on their screen, and then they're going to see this little slide or this little space off to the side where they actually type an answer. And then I'll show you kind of how that works on my end. But it allows the student to interact with the slides. And then there's just kind of a whole bunch of different things you can do with that in terms of what you need to show or record, or it can just simply be for, an exit ticket or feedback on a certain topic. But basically that's all you do to add that interactive content. Sometimes you'll go through, for this one, for example, this was a slide that was already put in here, and what they wanted you to do was kind of type it in yourself. Well, I just kept this blank, and I added this in as a drawing question, and I'll show you that here in a minute also. But basically, that means the students will be able to put in their own text boxes when they view this and fill in the chart on their own. There's also this option for, I'll use this draggable option quite a bit. So on this slide, I added a draggable interactive screen where the students will have these different colored dots that they drag according to how they basically label these different things. So there's a lot of options for that. You can have a multiple choice question. I've not really used that one a whole lot, but you can do that. You can have it where they type in a number. And then you can also add the website feature where basically you click that and you enter in a website, and it basically immediately directs the students to a specific website. Maybe even you want them to be directed to a Google Doc or something else that they interact with even more from there. So there's a lot of options in terms of how to add in the website. But let me kind of show you how this works from the teaching perspective. So when I am ready to present this lesson, I'm going to click, I have to click present lesson from Pear Deck. If I click present from the regular Google Slides, that's just going to present it like a normal slide. So I need to present it like a Pear Deck. So I'm going to click present, the green present lesson button, and it's going to take a second to load. And then if you are the kind of teacher, it kind of depends on what your classroom setup is like. But if you have your own display and then you have screens or TVs or whatever, basically you want to take this screen that we're going to show you first, where it has the join PD and it has the code. That's what you want on the screen that the students see. However, you also get this dashboard, which the dashboard is what you would maybe keep on your own display so the students aren't seeing the dashboard. And this is what allows you to kind of see a little extra content. What I do when I run Pear Deck, though, because I find it's a little bit easier and I like to walk around the room, so I don't want to have to be continuing to come back to my computer, I actually open the dashboard on my iPad and then run the presentation from my iPad as I'm just walking around the room. You could also do that with a Chromebook. If you have your own Chromebook sitting somewhere, like on maybe a podium or something somewhere, you can open the dashboard from your Chromebook. It's just a matter of going to the Pear Deck website and logging in. But that way you don't have to have the dashboard only on the main classroom display. It just allows for a little bit more movement on your end. So I'm going to switch back to, so this is the screen that you would want to drag to the display for the students to see. And then I usually make it full screen. I'm going to keep it like this just for the sake of bouncing back and forth between screens. But this is the screen you display, and then the students are going to go just open any browser, Safari, Chrome, whatever it is you use, and they're going to go to the website joinpd.com. Get this screen where they enter in their code. So our code for this session is PICZL. So I'm going to go to this and type in PICZL. And then it will immediately take me to the Pear Deck for the student. And always it asks how you're feeling today. You can use this if you want. I don't really use this just to kind of know how students are doing. I'm just going to say I'm happy today. So we've got that. And then the student will be directed to this screen. And so they can see the slides. Now they cannot advance the slides as it is. You can change that, but as it is set so the students cannot advance the slide. So I'm going to come back to my display. So obviously this is what we want on the classroom TVs or screen or whatever you have. And I'm going to close out the code. And so now I can advance through the slides, just like you would any normal Google Slides presentation. So you can click through the things to get the different slides. As you advance through them, the student's view will also advance. So it just, it changes along with, and then you'll notice the dashboard actually changes along with. But like I said, I actually, when I'm running Pear Deck, I'm walking around the room with my iPad and I actually advance the slides through this dashboard. To me, I like to be able to see this little preview over here. It also gives you some additional controls, but it's just a nice view for it. So right now we're on the screen that is a grid where the students have to type something, and it is entered in through Pear Deck. When I put this in on Pear Deck, I put it in as a drawing question. So this is the student view. So they have the slide and then they have this toolbar of different things. Now, usually when I do this, I've not really found a ton of really great applications for actually drawing. I could see maybe for different things like the highlighter could be great. It's kind of an awkward draw, especially if you're not on a touch device. But what I like from this is the text tool, and I use this mostly. The line tool I could see as being something really valuable, maybe like in math. But generally with this screen, I use the text tool because I like the students to be able to place text in different areas rather than just asking or answering one question. So I always direct the students to click on the text tool. They can pick their color as long as it's visible, and then they're going to draw a little text box in here and write an answer. Okay, they can write another text box. So we're going to click off of it And then we're going to click to make another one. All right, so the student obviously is not typing the greatest answers. All right, so we've got some answers in there, okay? Now what I see on the teacher end, so from my dashboard, I have a few options. So right now it's just showing me as a list. So obviously there's only one student. I'm the only person in this class. But what this would look like if I had a whole bunch of students is I'd be able to scroll through and just see this large picture of each person's screen as they're typing. If I want to see it a little bit smaller, I can click this grid layout and it's going to show it more kind of like a thumbnail. Of course, that's pretty small, so it's hard to see, but it just really depends on what you're doing. There's also the overlaid layout, which I probably wouldn't do that for something like this, but this is giving you a layered view. So like sometimes I'll use that draggable option and I'll have all the kids, put this where you think it should go based on, or vote on something, and they're dragging stuff around. That layered view is kind of nice because it shows you everybody's answers just kind of all layered on top of each other. And it's always kind of interesting, different applications of that just sort of present different information. So for me, for something like this, I'd probably keep it more of a list. And then what you can do from here, so the students have entered in their answers. What I like to do is I give them a set amount of time and then I will lock their screen, meaning that they can't change their answer. Okay, so they're locked in. If you don't lock their screen, they can still type as you're showing this on the main view, which it just kind of depends on what you're using this for. So generally speaking, though, I will lock their screens. That means on the student end, their screen will look like this. It says your teacher has locked responses for this slide, your current answer, and it shows what they're being locked in with. And then from my dashboard, I can say show responses. And so now on our classroom monitor, we're seeing what the responses are. Now, when it shows the responses on the classroom display, in your room, it does not include their names. So it's an anonymous thing. However, on your dashboard, it gives you the student's name. So you see who wrote what, but it kind of opens doors. I found with students a lot of times when they know their name is not going to be tagged to it, they're maybe a little bit more willing to say more because they don't feel as afraid. And so this is a really, really great option for that student who's kind of like, maybe wants to raise their hand, they have something to say, but they're just a little too embarrassed. So this allows that student to engage in this lesson because they're able to write something and it's anonymous. But at the same time, I'm always very clear to let the students know that even though it's anonymous on the screen, it's not on mine. So it still counts for something. They can't just write, garbage up there. It still counts for something because I still see it. So a couple other things too. I have a draggable one in here. Where is the draggable? Oh, here's the draggable one. So this is one of the questions that is that draggable option. So the students, we read this story. This is all digital citizenship. So it was about cyberbullying. And then they had to decide who was what, basically. So this is this student's screen. So I gave them 4 things. When I set this up, I put in 4 different draggables and they're different colors. It's just a dot. You can change this shape. That's just what it was for me. So basically they had to decide, okay, this girl Sandra is the red dot. Which thing is she? Is she the bully, the target, whatever? She was actually the target. These 2 people were both bullies, which I didn't realize how much alike the orange and yellow look like until just now. So you might want to change that. And then the other kids were kind of bystanders, kind of bullies also. So we put it like that. So when I go back to the view here, now this is an example where I would use this layered display here because it's going to really show what people thought. So when I did this in class, in a whole group of kids, and I showed this to the class, I showed it where there was just a whole bunch of red dots here, a whole bunch of orange and yellow, and then a whole bunch of green over here. So everyone would kind of see, oh, we're about all on the same page. Obviously, there's some variety because not all the kids really read the story and listened, but it helps us see this perspective of just all of them at once. There's also the option, I'll pull this one up here, that we added at the very beginning. If you just add a text answer on the student side, so this was the very first thing we entered in here. The students just are supposed to answer the question with text. On the student's view, it looks like this. They still see the slide and it just gives them a place to put an answer. So if the student were to type something and answer in there, on my dashboard end, it kind of almost looks like texting. So you see just the student's name and what they typed. And then when you lock the screens and show those responses, the view then changes to kind of look the same way. So it's the same concept where you see the text, what the kid typed, but it doesn't show their name. A lesson where students kind of aren't able to finish all at the same time. One sort of last thing that I'd like to say about Pear Deck that you can do with this is that you can also switch this to student-paced mode, which what student-paced mode is that it means that the student can now advance through the slides on their own. So if you were going to use this for maybe an assignment, you turn on student-paced mode, and then from the student's view, these arrows at the bottom of the screen where they can go back and forth through the slides on their own. This is a really nice option, especially if you know you're going to kind of do this lesson in class and then you're going to give time to work on it, or maybe they're working with a partner on it. Then that way they can go back and forth on their own and you can just sort of decide which slide is showing on the screen. So this is a really nice option, especially if it's a self-paced type of thing, or if there's a response like this one. When it ended, there was 4 different things for them to fill in, and these are kind of short answer text things where they had to type in a text box, so it gives them individualized time rather than me just saying, all right, we're done. So that is very helpful, especially for students that don't all work at the same pace. When you are complete with this, we're going to click end, and because we are actually in that student paced mode, there's a few things here. We can say, it says your session is currently in student pace mode. Are you sure you want to end your session? You can say yes, or you can allow them to keep working. So basically what this means is you're going to close it out on your screen, but they can still access it and be typing in your answers. However, if you click yes, I'm sure, then it's going to make it so they are closed out and answers are locked in. So I'm going to go ahead and click yes, I'm sure. And then I have the option to name this session. Now, if I am going to use this information for something, I would give it a name so I can come back to it and find it later. This is a session I did not really need to use later. It was just all for that moment. So I just did end session without naming. If you give it a name, though, you can use it for maybe an assignment, or you can refer back to it later. You can also get a Google Sheets grid basically of answers so that you can use that for data if you're using this as an assignment, but I'm just going to click end session without naming. All right, so that is Pear Deck. And, like I said, there's really a lot of things you can do with Pear Deck. So easy to use. It does take a little getting used to, knowing kind of where the students are, where you are. But after maybe using it once or twice, it's hard to think about doing anything with Google Slides and not having it because of how much engagement you will see from the students, especially from students who are not normally engaged in your class. So try it out. Questions, but thank you so much for watching today.